So the way that these elitists, these people who view themselves as the ruling class, want to hold you accountable if you are not behaving the way that they want you to behave as it relates to your carbon footprint and how you are addressing or contributing to climate change, is they want to convert our monetary system into what's called a central bank digital currency. So it's cryptocurrency, but instead of being independent of a nation's currency, they want it to be actually issued by the government. They want it to be issued by the central bank of different countries, and this obviously defeats the point of cryptocurrency, right? The point of cryptocurrency is so that you don't have to rely on, whether it's the dollar or whatever the currency is of your nation. But the threat of central bank digital currency is what we saw happen in Canada with the trucker convoy, the Freedom Convoy. It's that the government can come in and they can freeze your accounts. They can penalize you for behaving in a certain way or for not behaving in a certain way. They can give you money as incentive to do something or take money away from you. They are controlling your behavior by controlling the currency which you need to live your life. And the news director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, talked about how they're trying to make the central bank digital currency not just a thing, but a global thing.
We are advocating to think about this world of digital money as a global public good. And in a recent discussion in Zurich, where we both were, what we advocated for is to have a public platform. So when protocols are agreed, this public platform can connect different CBDCs. There can be interoperability, the same way you would transfer euros from one country to another, you do it using CBDCs.
Now, CBDC is obviously the acronym for central bank digital currency, but why would she be advocating for this global standard, or this, she calls it a public platform to connect different central bank digital currencies? The reason for that is the same reason that a government or a country would issue the central bank digital currency, so that they could be in charge of its use. They could regulate your use of it, and by regulating your use of it, they can regulate you. Well, this takes it one step further. Instead of just being controlled by your own government, then anybody who was using digital currency, central bank issued digital currency, would not only be controlled by their government, but by these extra governmental organizations like the World Economic Forum, who wants to have influence over how you behave. And then when you behave a certain way or don't behave a certain way, they want some kind of punishment or incentive or accountability or enforcement based on their own political agenda. These are their words. They are mapping out exactly what their agenda is and how they intend to integrate it into our society. It's very interesting, actually, to watch what's happening, because we always hear in politics of these revolutions. And when we hear the name revolution, we think of the American Revolution, we think of the French Revolution, we think of war, we think of the revolution that never happened that Karl Marx advocated for, where the workers rise up against the ruling class. And it's always a big thing. It's usually violent, but it's always this like big event with capital letters. But what the World Economic Forum is doing with their agenda, what Klaus Schwab and all of these global elites that he invited to Davos for this conference, what they're advocating for is a much quieter, a much less flashy, a much sneakier strategy, because they're not advocating for anybody to rise up. They're not advocating for violence. They're not advocating for anything showy. They are simply inserting at certain places in society different mechanisms that will serve as triggers to turn our country or other countries into the version of government and economy that they want, that will turn our shareholder capitalism into stakeholder capitalism, that will remove the power of the people here in this country and give it to not only our government officials, but these global elites that gather every year at Davos for the World Economic Forum. And these little mechanisms that they slide into our society are incredibly important and incredibly well thought out, because they do inevitably, they only have one result. When these mechanisms are inserted into our society, it's not an option of, oh, if this happens, I wonder what the consequence will be. There's one consequence, and the consequence is pointing our society and our legal system and the way that we live towards this climate change agenda, where we are forced to behave a certain way or else face punishment from these people.